listening to the Straight to Video podcast with Rob Lane.
Hey there, and welcome to another new episode of the Straight to Video podcast. How you been? You all okay? So today I'm chatting with singer-songwriter and, well, my bandmate Ryan Hamilton, all the way from his home in Texas. Ryan and I have known each other since he first started visiting the UK as part of the wonderful band People on Vacation. Myself, along with drummer Mickey Richards, would later become a part of the POV touring band, and following that group's unfortunate split, we'd continue to perform with Ryan right up to present day as we get set to release the new album Nowhere to Go But Everywhere in just a few weeks. It's exciting times even in the midst of everything crazy that's going on in the world. Ryan has been on quite the musical journey, picking up the guitar fairly late on compared to most people, which he tells us about in this conversation. He didn't waste any time at all in becoming a great songwriter, and that led to a lot of attention in the band Smile Smile, who achieved some great success in the States and several large profile tours. Since then, through the People on Vacation times and up until present day, Ryan continues to prove what a great pop rock, power pop and just overall killer songwriter he is. I think this new album is some of his strongest material to date, and we really can't wait for you all to hear it. This is a really fun chat, which I think you're going to enjoy. I certainly learned some stuff even after all these years, and we cover a lot of ground over the next 45 minutes or so. Not just music, but learning about where Ryan grew up, his very explosive relationship with his brother. We talk about religion, mental health, and a whole bunch of stuff. We get serious at times, but there's a lot of laughs too for the most part. So thanks for listening, but for now, sit back and enjoy my talk with Ryan Hamilton. The new album could be described as a road album, at least from the sense of how it was created and what inspired it. Looking back to when you were a child growing up in Texas, was there a particular album that jumps to mind that your family perhaps played on road trips?
I don't know. For me, going on road trips when I was getting into my teenage years, I mean, that was like me bringing my Discman and my book, my big CD book, and just kind of being in my own world. So when I think about that, the first thing that comes to mind is the band Third Eye Blind. And that first record, I remember just listening to it over and over and over. And not even like the big hit, Semi-Charmed Life, like that whole record, songs like God of Wine and Motorcycle Drive-By and some of those, you know, really poetic songs.
Yeah.
That's what comes to mind first, is kind of getting lost in my own kind of music. My family and I could always listen to classic rock together because I grew up with a steady diet of it from my dad and I loved it. But yeah, the first thing that comes to mind, like going on vacation as a kid, is definitely that kind of mid-late 90s alternative rock. You know, that consumed me, that whole musical world.
Did you listen to radio a lot, or was it always an album in the car, do you think?
I was a big radio guy, and, you know, we had the benefit of hearing something on the radio and then going to the store to buy it. You know, there was no iTunes or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that I listened to the radio, not just because I loved music and alternative music at the time, and country before country went to shit, but 90s country was still really good. Garth Brooks and all of that was happening. But anyway, alternative stuff and alternative radio, I would listen, love, whatever. And then there would be, I mean, we all did it. You were waiting to hear the new single from some band that you like. You can't wait to hear the new song. That's how you heard it. And then if you liked it, you would go buy the album.
It's like research.
Yes, it did feel like that. And, you know, I loved that. I loved the radio for those two reasons.
What kind of trips did you all go on as a family whilst you were growing up? Was it a summer thing or did you go away on weekends?
Summer thing. So my family still goes. When I was a kid through, I guess almost or maybe all the way through high school, about halfway through high school, my dad had a boat. I should say my family had a boat, but my dad's the one who had to deal with it. So I'm going to say my dad had a boat. We would go to the lake. We would camp. We would go up to Oklahoma, over to Arkansas. There's some beautiful lakes there. Lake Washita in Arkansas. I think that's Arkansas. I get them mixed up. But we would take these trips just a state or two away and camp right on the lake, fish, take the boat out. I mean, I learned how to water ski at a young age. So I have these really fond memories of my dad waking me up right when the sun was up and just me and him going out and water skiing when it was just, looked like glass out there. It was smooth. There was no waves, no movement, just me and my dad.
Was it like a fog on there?
There was. It was totally that thing. Yeah. It was really beautiful and really cool. I grew up doing that, going to the lake and having those adventures. And then I think my mom got tired of camping. This is my theory. I think my mom got tired of camping. It was like, can we go somewhere else? So they started going to South Padre Island in Texas. A lot of people don't realize Texas has an island, the southern tip, right on the border of Mexico. So, God, we've been going to South Padre Island for, I don't know. I don't want to think about how many years, probably 10 or 15 years. Yeah.
So your mom got to trade in the campsite for a hotel, I'm assuming.
Yeah, basically like a condo. Yeah, it's like we pretty much go to the same place, run by the same people, same spot.
Yeah,
it's really comfortable.
That's kind of stress-free as well. I think a lot of people like that, go to the same place. I like to go somewhere different every time, but there is always an element of stress when you're going somewhere new. It's like, is it going to work out? Is it going to suck? So if you're going away for a proper break, go somewhere you're familiar with and just to relax.
Yeah. And, I think most of it is the memories that you make with your family. So wherever you go, there's always something special there about just going together. But I'm glad I grew up going on vacation to the lake and doing some of that cool stuff, camping. And, it was very, very late 80s, early 90s. A lot of people did that sort of thing, especially around here. But it's something I'm very thankful that I had as a kid.
Remind me geographically as to where you grew up in relation to where you are now. Is it all still pretty much in the similar area, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all within probably like a 2-hour radius. The little town I grew up in, Saginaw, Texas, it's probably, I don't know, a little over an hour from where I live now. And my parents moved only 20 minutes away from where I grew up. So they're still right there, just kind of a different part of town.
Has that changed much since your childhood? Because I feel Texas very much holds on to its roots, and some places, which I've seen, almost could be frozen in time a little bit. But I just wondered if there's anything particular you miss from back then, such as I'm thinking stuff like drive-in theatres, which you've probably still got, maybe bars, restaurants, arcades, video stores, which were perhaps swallowed up by the big corporations, but something you used to really enjoy visiting when you were younger.
Yeah, the town that I grew up in, Saginaw, just kind of exploded. There's a Walmart there. There was not anything like that when I grew up. There's 2 high schools. There's all of this stuff. When I was there, it was the smallish town, one school, one high school. It's all about high school football and, kind of what a lot of people associate with Texas and high school. But there was no big chain, really anything. The video store was called Blazing Video. I used to love would ride my bike up to the video store, find a movie for me or for the family. And
you were in charge of the selection, was you?
Sometimes, yeah. But, my parents loved it too. I mean, that was the thing, back in the day, to go to the video store. And sometimes as a family, it was impossible to pick one. Nobody can decide. So you would take turns picking.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of times it was stuff like, trying to convince my parents that it was okay for me to watch a rated R movie, which I hardly ever got to do because they were pretty strict. Yeah, I had to kind of sneak one every once in a while. But it was ideal for kind of a small town Texas, but close enough to the city. Nothing too, I don't want to say mainstream, but there was just, It was just big enough where we had a video store, we had a grocery store, we had all the things you really need. And it was all right there, and I could ride my bike to it. And kids did that back then. I mean, you ride your bike.
Yeah.
Your bike is it's a big deal in your life when you're that age. And all the kids had them, so you would see other kids riding their bikes around, and then go home at dark. Then those were the rules.
Yeah.
But other than Blazing Video, the video store, who I actually went there so often because I wanted the advertising, like when a movie was going to come out, whatever they did with it. So I remember hounding them for this really long Forrest Gump banner. It was in the store. It was like, coming to VHS and whatever. As soon as I saw it go up, can I speak to the manager, please? I mean, God knows how old I was. But it's like, I want that. I don't care what I have to do. I'll work here for free. Tell me what to do. I need that banner. I'm sure I'm not the only one that asked for it, but I ended up getting it. And that stayed in my childhood room till I went to college. This is huge.
Yeah. Of
him sitting on the bench. Like, it covered an entire wall. This is how uncool I was back then.
Everybody used to do that. It used to be like first come, first served. As soon as you got your name written on the back on it, that sealed the deal.
Yeah, that was it. My name was literally on the back of that. That's really funny. Yeah.
Signed and sealed.
Yeah.
Damn it if you missed out.
Got it. I was going to say, oh yeah, other than the video store, did you guys have a candy store? Like just candy and like chocolates and stuff with the plastic bins? You would open up the plastic bin and like scoop it in a bag, and then they would weigh it.
You got me thinking now. I don't think we ever had like a specific store just for that. We've had them since. You get them now. You get like retro sweet shops and stuff.
Yeah.
We used to have just in like Woolworths a big section for like pick and mix.
This was probably at the grocery store in the front, now that I think about it. Also, we had great names for stores back then. This place was called Sack and Save. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard things like Piggly Wiggly and these places that we have in America. It's hard to find these places now, but this was actually in the front of Sack and Save, and it was an area where you could go scoop out some candy. They had everything. Mm-hmm. Candy corn and like, no way you find that shit now, like candy in the open air. Parents would freak out, especially right now. But, COVID and open air candy don't really go well together.
Kids trying it, putting it back in.
Yeah. I remember scooping the candy out of that place. That place was next to Blazing Video. It's funny how you start talking about this stuff. You think about things you haven't thought about in a long time. Drive-in theaters, yes, I still go. They're still around. Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, that's still on my bucket list. Never done it.
Oh my God, you have to go.
Never done it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know, just kind of adventurous about sitting in your car with the speakers all around you, or maybe even if you're outside in the bed of a truck, it's a different experience, but it's still, and just like stuffing your face with funnel cake in the driver's seat, stuff like that.
See, a lot of people won't know what funnel cake is over here.
Oh yeah. Funnel cake is just like a fried batter. They put it in a tube and they squeeze it into the fryer, like in a ketchup tube. That's what it looks like. And then as soon as it hits the water, it kind of fries.
I'd describe it as kind of like a macaroni donut kind of thing.
It is like a macaroni donut. Assumption. Yeah, and then they cover it in powdered sugar. Oh my God, it sounds delicious.
What about arcades? Did you have an arcade when you were growing up?
No, that was like a little bit before I was old enough. Like, I remember my friends' older brothers, they were talking about going and playing. There was like a pinball place I kind of remember that ended up closing, or it became like a baseball card shop or something. I remember them transitioning into something else because people weren't going in there to play the arcade games or the pinball. I mean, that's a little fuzzy because, like I said, like my friends' older brothers were into that. And I remember them talking about it, but I never really went.
How was the dynamic between you and your brother as kids?
Oh my God. Yeah. How much time do you have?
Just an overview.
He's almost 4 years younger than me, and it's a weird dynamic. So I still carry a lot of guilt for torturing him as the younger brother.
Yeah, 4 years is a good chunk when you're that young.
Oh man, I really let him have it a few times. Just like, I can't believe some of the stuff I did. Like I don't even want to tell you. It makes me feel like a terrible person.
Fine.
It's just, I mean, we were just kids. You get older and you learn that this is like, oh, you did this sort of thing too. You talk to other people. You don't feel so bad. But we also had this thing where if there was ever any trouble or drama in the neighborhood, like somebody was messing with him or somebody was messing with me,
right?
We were going to go handle it together.
Yeah, that's cool.
Don't fuck with us in that way. Like, we may fight each other sometimes in the front yard, but you mess with us, we're coming after you together. We had that thing. Yeah.
That's great.
My mom would always tell us, I know we were a lot to deal with, my brother and I, because we're both just a little bit odd and big personalities, I guess, in some way. But
yeah,
my mom, I think, got to a point where she just didn't know what to do. So this is a good example of where she was at as a mother. I remember repeatedly her saying, I don't care what you do, but do not bleed on my carpet.
It got that far. Wow.
Yeah. She was just like, if you're going to bleed, go outside. And she would just like, she wouldn't say stop. She wouldn't try and like handle it. She would just be like, don't you dare bleed on my carpet. My house is clean outside. And I'm like I have my brother by the throat. Just like, ugh.
That's an amazing quote. Do not bleed on my carpet.
That was real. Like, she wasn't joking. That's a real thing. My brother and I could take a lot of time telling some crazy stories, but it was, I guess parts of it were pretty normal for an older, younger brother back then. But, also he was out of his mind. He was, he like physically injured me several times. Wow. Like, it wasn't just me giving it. Like, I remember before remote controls, you had to go up to the TV and, click the dial. I was old enough for this to really hurt. This will make sense in a second. So there's no remote. I crawled up to the TV, right? I'm on all fours in front of the TV to switch it, right? He walks up behind me and kicks me in the balls from behind as hard as he can. Just like, it's not like I did anything. I was just going to change the channel. And then all of a sudden,
you just saw a target.
Boom! Just like, yeah, That's the kind of thing. And you end up kind of being on guard all the time when you grow up like that, just waiting for the other one.
If he does that, he knows he's going to get something back at some point.
Yeah, and he did. Also, my parents, actually, I think it was my grandparents, bought this child a real blow dart gun. And let me try to explain this right. So there was a long hallway. My room was at the end of the hall, right? My brother's door was just kind of here on the side. So I had to walk past his door to get to my room. He would sit there like Indian style with this blow dart gun like this and just wait for me to walk by. And all I would hear is, right? And then like, it's in me. It's not like he's literally shooting me with darts. There's no way to defend that. Like, I'm not going to go charging in there. He's still going to be trying to shoot me with these things. So it got to the point where and remember, he's younger, where I would wonder if he was home, if I didn't see him, and I thought maybe he might be in his room waiting on me to walk by, which he was, that I would run. I would run as fast as I could into my room, afraid that my younger brother was going to shoot me with a blow dart gun. What kind of parent lets this happen?
It's the best. It's like Home Alone or something like that, and you're trying to get in and Kevin's waiting for you or something.
Dude. So the same place they got him the blow dart gun, they got me a real tomahawk. They came from like an Indian reservation in Oklahoma. But I remember that was the one thing, and I can't believe I can even say this sentence and it be real. The one thing my brother was afraid of is the tomahawk. If I ever got my tomahawk out, he knew he better stop. He was afraid of it.
Some digits are coming off.
Yes. I remember consciously going, okay, I got to space out my tomahawk threats so he knows that I mean it whenever I bring it out.
And how old was you at this point?
I was like 12.
I said 12.
12. I'm like 12 years old. And I got my 8-year-old brother with a blow dart gun. I have a tomahawk. He's running around the neighborhood shirtless and shoeless most of the time. Just like this wild, dirty kid. God.
Oh, so good.
I don't know what people must have thought.
Those Hamilton brothers, they're at it again.
It was like that. It did feel like that. My brother more than I, but yes, it did feel that way.
At what point would you say, did it get to a point where your kind of interests came together? Because you're both into like comic books and stuff like that, right?
Well, we were into the art of it, really, but music.
Yeah.
Music really was the thing. We both loved the band Our Lady Peace. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
this band, but I remember, taking him to go see Our Lady Peace. And
Was that his first gig?
well, no, because we had gone to Edge Fest together, and then Our Lady Peace was on. I took him on his 18th birthday and brought like cigars to smoke together. And
that's
like,
cool, man.
We did fun stuff. Well, it was cool until he didn't know not to inhale the cigar, and he smoked the entire cigar. And then I'll never forget this. They were one of the like box trash cans like this, right? With a flap on either side. And he was trying to throw up into the trash can, but it kept flapping it back in his face. So I'm trying to listen to Our Lady Peace, and he's trying to throw up in this trash can, and it's just like slap, 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 throwing it back in his face. And I'm mad at him, and I'm laughing at the same time, and I'm trying to watch the show. So
could you imagine if you had an iPhone?
Oh my God. Seriously.
It'd be gold, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But it would have been cool if you now it's still cool. Like I wanted it to be this, it's just the story of my life. I wanted it to be this special thing, and that's what it turned into. But yeah, we had been to some music festivals before that. It was really fun. We got to see some great bands.
Yeah.
That's what we bonded over the most, was like when I was, I don't know, old enough to drive, I guess. So 16, he's 12, 13, all the way through kind of my first couple of years of college. So there's a solid group of years there where we were hanging out, and it wasn't as torturous. We weren't trying to prank each other, injure each other.
You must have fond memories of that kind of time then, because that's very formative time from like your teens and doing cool stuff like that, which you perhaps wouldn't have done if you didn't have an older brother or something. So,
man, I hope so. I really do hope so, because all he ever tells me about is how much I tortured him. Just makes me feel guilty all the time. Just like we did some fun stuff too. It wasn't just that.
You must have gone on some like good adventures together or places to visit, because you've told me about some cool stuff around there. What was those lights, the ghost lights?
So that was more whenever I was in college. Like, late teens, early 20s in West Texas. There's some creepy stuff in West Texas. And I went to college in Abilene, but there are things like Anson lights. And the story you're talking about is there's, I'll say, infamous story out there where this lady lost her child in a field, and they never found the child. And she went insane looking, and she was always looking all the time. And she spent, the last however many years of her life just constantly looking for this child in the field, dawn to dusk. So if you go out to this field, which you can still go to, and it's like dirt roads, it's in the middle of nowhere, you can turn around and face your car towards the field, turn all your lights off. It's not near anything. There aren't any lights anywhere. And you flash your lights and say something like, "He's over here." And then all of a sudden this lantern like light appears. And it just kind of wanders around. Like people always say, "Yeah, right," or whatever. And I will tell you, I was one of those people that said, "Yeah, right, let's go. Like, let's go right now. This is some bullshit. I don't believe this for 1 second." Got out there, totally freaked me out.
I've seen YouTube clips of it. It's insane.
Dude, it's a real thing.
There's not just the odd YouTube clip. There's a bunch of them on there.
It's more of a, like, you don't want to stay out there for too long. I'll be honest. Like, it's real creepy. And I'm not afraid of that. Like, I believe in ghosts and spirits and things like that. So, I went in not really afraid of that sort of thing. And it's the real deal. It scared the shit out of me. So it's a place that you don't stay for very long. It's maybe like, we're going to go have a great night, and then at the end of the night, we'll go do this real quick, but then really want to get back home or to the dorm where I was staying at the time. Yeah. And like back inside where it's safe.
Yeah. Religion played a big part in your upbringing, and it still occasionally appears in your songwriting today. Was that a similar thing for your friends too, in the area that you grew up in? Was that kind of a common thing? Without going too deep, unless you want to, how has your view changed as you've got older? Yeah, so, everybody, I would say 90% of the families will go to church, not just go 3 times a week, twice on Sunday and then on Wednesday evening. Twice on a Sunday?
Yeah, so you go in the morning and then you go at night, and there's a lot of meals together, like at the church, and there's things called youth group, where when you get to a certain age, there's this community of, people that are your same age that you really have grown up with in the church. Mm-hmm. You go to summer camp together, you do all of this together, like your entire childhood. So it's a big part of the community, and it's a big part of like, this is what you're supposed to do. There's a lot of guilt and fear and whatever, but there's also good memories from that. I struggle with, not having a choice when I was a kid. Everybody's forced into this.
Right.
And I don't necessarily blame my parents or their parents, and it goes way back, because all they're doing is what they feel like the right thing to do is for their kids. So it's tough for me, man, because I feel like that became a part of me before my brain was developed enough, or any part of me was old enough to go, hold on a second. I don't know if I want to believe all of this. I don't know if I want to go, two lions and all of their prey are getting on a boat together. These kinds of stories, you believe them and you're told that they are fact, and you are not to doubt or deny or any of that. Oh, somebody parted the sea for somebody to walk down, like all of these stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a struggle. There's still part of me there's part of me that still feels guilty about certain things, even that I do now in life that I shouldn't. If I curse or, whatever, there's still that little, super religious, grew up in church thing that just kind of echoes in the back.
Mm-hmm. It's hanging there, yeah?
Yeah, and I just think it's going to be there forever. So I have some resentment because of that. I know Jesus was a man and had some great things to say, and I believe in being spiritual, but not necessarily religious. And saying things like this is offensive to my family. So it's hard. It's a hard thing for me. And a lot of people, I think that if you grew up the way I did and then ended up doing something, being an artist, whatever, where you had to kind of break some of the rules that you should do, doing finger quotes. People can see me. Not everybody can see me. It just feels impossible. It's like we were shackled as kids and you had to learn.
Surely it's kind of smart that you're not challenging it, but questioning it from your own point of view. That's you growing, and you can't always take on board what everybody tells you all the time. I think it's good to challenge things. So
it is, but it's tough because not everybody has the courage to challenge those things. They go to their grave scared to even, think to challenge those things. That's what makes me sad about it, is that some people just never get the chance. They live their life with these boundaries and these fears and things. And, it's like, man, you didn't even let yourself go live life, like really live it. And you don't have to become a heroin addict. There's a area between going to church 3 times a week and destroying your life and your body. Like you can find a way.
What do you think opened things up for you then? What do you think it was? Music and art and stuff like that perhaps got you questioning things?
I mean, not to be too deep about it, but when my granddad died when I was 16, I was still going to church all the time and all of that. And he was my hero. And I was laying on his chest in the hospital whenever it did that thing where the heart monitor went boop, and that really messed me up. So that went into a whole, like, there's no way there's a God. He wouldn't do this to me or my family. And, that was that year, I lost both grandfathers. My aunt got hit by a car. My great grandmother and great grandfather died. And then the other great grandmother and great grandfather died. This all happened like a year or two.
Wow.
Just like death and funerals and all of this. And it was like this sea change in my family. Everybody just died. And that, before I was even thinking about playing music or playing guitar or whatever, I mean, I went nuts. I was just like, if this can happen in your life, I am doing everything. I want to try every drug. I want to get drunk.
I
want to fool around with girls and do that as much as possible when I'm a teenager, because that's all any guy wants to do when you like girls or guys, to each their own, whatever sex you're interested in. That's really all you think about when you're 17. So that's where it started for me. Just that tragedy leading to doubt and questioning, and, then eventually kind of figuring it out on my own, what I think is real or not.
Yeah. I think that's great though, that you've come to, not necessarily you say you're probably always going to have that little thing hanging over your head, but I think it's great that you've kind of coming from a background which is at it so full on, and you've been able to kind of grow out of it's probably bad phrasing for talking about religion, but
I know what you mean though.
Been able to question it, and I think that's great.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm happy to have made it through. Like it's a scary thing, especially when you think you're going to hell. Like that's not fun. That's not a fun way to live. It's like, I'm going to hell. It's too bad for me, but it's good to get to a place where you can go, I'm not going to hell. Like, there is a heaven. I'm totally going there. I know I'm going there. I'm a good person.
Diving back into music, do you remember the first album you really obsessed over, like playing constantly? And how do you feel it holds up today? Do you ever revisit it?
I don't revisit it because it was Crisscross. It was
awesome.
Jump, and I missed the bus, and I even wore my overalls backwards to school. I remember getting made fun of really bad. Like people wanted to know if I had made a mistake. Like I went to school and they were like, "Oh, Ryan, your overalls are on backwards." I was like, "No, I know. You guys don't listen to Crisscross." This is like, I grew up in the widest small town, small town Texas. Nobody's listening to Crisscross really. They're maybe listening to New Kids on the Block or whatever. But yeah, that. And speaking of New Kids on the Block, this was all happening around that same time. So you couldn't escape it. All the girls loved it. Of course, I was listening to Hangin' Tough and all of this. And I misquoted some story that I saw in the paper. And my dad will never let me live this down. And what I said was, New Kids on the Block are bigger than the Beatles, right? And this like brought shame to my father and my family. What really, it was just, they had sold so many records and broken something. And I'm arguing with my dad saying how they're going to be bigger than the Beatles, and they're already bigger than the Beatles. And, like to have that point of reference is super embarrassing, that like Crisscross, New Kids on the Block, all of this. It was
I think we've all been there, man.
It was very short-lived. That and Debbie Gibson. I was obsessed with Debbie Gibson, whatever the album.
That was all that time frame, man. Electric Youth.
Oh my God. So the cover, I can see it now, where she's wearing the hat, Debbie Gibson. I had that. I remember I had the cassette, and I took the cover out of the cassette and kind of unfolded it and had it like next to my bed, like on this little desk. Just look at Debbie every night, go to sleep.
So good.
Yeah.
Do I remember correctly, you got into songwriting and performing fairly late, as to what's perhaps considered the norm?
Yeah.
Can you tell us how all that happened and what triggered it?
Yeah, it's the most unrock and roll story. I went to college on a golf scholarship, and I was there, and I should clarify in case my parents listen to this, partial golf scholarship, not a full ride, because I didn't apply myself. But anyway, I was freakishly good at golf from a young age, and probably could have played in the pros. So I know I could have, but and did a couple of times.
Yeah.
So it was a weird thing. It's a weird thing to do and then get into music. I would go to the trainer when you're playing in college or university, as you guys would say. There's just a whole different level of training and working out and exercising, and because you have to perform at such a high level all of the time. They're expecting the team to win and you to perform well. So you go to a trainer and they would stretch your back if you were an athlete and you had problems, which I did because I had been playing golf since I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
So they would do this thing where they heated up heating pads in the microwave. There were these special heating pads that would get really hot, and they would relax your back, and then they would stretch you. Well, there was kind of a shift change in the trainers at Abilene Christian, where I went to college. And one trainer didn't realize the other trainer had already microwaved this heating pad. So they did it again. And then they had me lay down on it, and it melted the skin off my back. And I had put all my weight back on it.
Yeah.
And that hurt. I can't even explain. I still have a scar on the top of my butt, really. But because of that, and it was on my belt line, and it was a weird thing to kind of heal. I couldn't really walk right because it would rub on this burn, blister, weird thing. So I had to sit around a lot, and I was bored. I needed something to do. So I was like, I'm going to teach myself how to play guitar. And I went to this little music store in Abilene, Texas, and bought an Eagles anthology chord book and an acoustic guitar, and sat in my dorm room learning to play Peaceful Easy Feeling and Take It Easy, and these songs that I grew up with listening to with my dad. If I wouldn't have injured my back in college, my early 20s, then I never would have even thought to do that.
Isn't it crazy, these crossroads that things happen? That's just mad.
I know.
Did you find you picked it up pretty easily, or just because you had the time to focus on it, it kind of came together pretty fast, do you think?
It was weird. It was really fast for me. Like, I learned a few songs, and then I was writing songs really fast.
Yeah.
I called my family. I was like, I'm going to play some shows. I'm just going to do it. There's a coffee house there where you can go play. You had to audition.
How soon after?
I mean, dude, it was months. It was not long at all.
Wow.
And I called my mom. It's like, hey, I want you guys to come to Abilene. I'm playing a show. And they said, what do you mean you're playing a show? It's like, well, I learned how to play guitar. Like, what? You learned how to play guitar? It's like, yeah, I've been writing songs. I learned a bunch of songs. And I hadn't told anybody. So they came. I had been kind of playing around the dorm or whatever. And my parents show up to this little coffee house in Abilene. And it's like line out the door. Just like, it was weird. It was my first thing. Yeah. Soon as that happened, that was it for me.
That gave you the bug.
Yep. And just this little coffee house. But I mean, it was the thing people wanted to go see and do that night. There's no way I was good. There's no chance.
Can you remember what you played? What songs?
I remember playing Lightning Crashes by Live.
Nice.
Just because it was like edgy. They used the word placenta. And I was just like, I'm going to be edgy at Abilene Christian University and sing this song, And then I'd written some of my own songs. And then I'm positive I played some Eagles covers because that's what I knew. Yeah. I played Brown Eyed Girl. I remember that. I guess that's probably it. That's probably as much as I remember doing. Yeah.
I can't believe you did it that fast after. You must have been terrified, or was you confident?
I don't know. It was just like
very ballsy.
I remember feeling like I'm going to do this. It wasn't even like a question. I didn't really get nervous. It was like I just made up my mind. I just went, I'm going to do this now. And I'm really stubborn and I'm very determined once I decide I'm going to do something, whether it's competing in golf of all things or whatever. Like I'm going to work harder than anybody else. I'm going to get there faster than anybody else. I'm going to be better, whatever I have to do. I've always been that way. And that definitely played into that. I remember my pinky twitching, trying to learn guitar chords and being like, fuck you, finger, like you will not win. Just like, it's like I was going to, beat it. I was going to defeat this thing that was trying to get the better of me. So that played into me learning all of that really fast.
What did your parents think to the show? Can you remember their reaction?
They couldn't believe anybody was like, people were there.
Yeah.
That was their thing. They did not say a thing about how well I did, if I did well at all. They were just like, we cannot believe all of these people are here. What is going on? It's like, well, how did I do? Was I any good? I don't know. There are a lot of people here though.
I love it. That's so good. You've never shied away from sharing your experiences with mental illness. Was that something you've always had on your shoulders since you were a child, do you think? And if so, how did you cope back then? Or you had no idea what it was back then? And particularly as a teenager when everyone's heads and bodies are all over the place anyway. I'm just wondering, obviously you still battle with it today, but is there anything you perhaps tell someone, a younger version, maybe even a younger version of yourself, about how to try and work through it at such a young age if they're thinking, what the hell's happening to me?
Well, luckily kids now, there's a lot more known and socially accepted about being bipolar or, depressed or all of these things. It's out there. The information is there. I told you my brother and I were out of our minds when we were kids. Well, we didn't find out till we were older that we were both actually out of our minds. Like we had to go. My brother's bipolar and, takes medication to this day. I'm supposed to take it, but I don't. But what I was diagnosed as when I was 17 is they told me that I had manic depression, which has now been grouped in with bipolar disorder. And I have a serotonin deficiency in my brain, and there's a short in my brain. It's like a fuse trying to shoot serotonin across. Mine doesn't work. So they gave me a drug called Effexor that helped your body produce more serotonin. And it was just kind of like keep you from going to that really dark place. But back then, they really didn't know what they know now. There were only a few drugs they would give people that were kind of like the ones. Zoloft, Effexor, I'm going to forget the other one. But before that, and I haven't thought about this in a long time, they sent me in there as like, they sent me to see someone. It was the equivalent of teenage, like outpatient rehab, because I was so out of control. And, my granddad had died and all these family members have died, and I'm drinking and doing drugs, and, you need to get it together. Yeah. And I did. They were totally right. So they sent me in there, and it was in the middle of taking tests during that process that they went, whoa, do you realize that there's something actually wrong with you that you can't control? And that was a big moment for me. So I don't know. It's hard for me to give advice to other people about this because everybody's story is different. But my thing now is I wish they knew then what they knew now, because it would have been easier for somebody to go, this is going on. This is what you need to do. you don't have to be ashamed of this. There was a lot of what's wrong with me back then. Now I hope people realize that the opportunity is better than ever to speak up and be accepted, and people are educated, and the medicine is there, and the therapists are there, and there's so many people that have something like that.
There's so many different levels to it as well, isn't there?
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. And people, the irony being that you feel alone in those situations, but there are countless people out there feeling the same thing. So I would hope people know that they're actually not alone. There's lots of people that can relate, and there's help everywhere these days. So, if they can find a way to reach out to somebody, they totally should. You don't have to handle it by yourself.
I'm going to wrap it up with one last question, and it kind of puts you on the spot because I'd never be able to answer it. Is there one thing you wish you still had from your childhood, whether it be a toy or a rare album or something more unique? Or if not, is there something you always wanted but you never got?
Oh, that's a good question. The thing I wish I kept and still had, not even to sell it, just because I loved it, was Skeletor's castle, like the He-Man action figure thing. And the castle that I had it.
Snake Mountain.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. So drawbridge and the whole thing, it was just like, I thought it was the best thing ever. And I remember being old enough where I didn't play with these toys, and my mom sold them in the garage sale. But I remember going, please don't sell it. I don't know why. I really want to have it. Like, I want to keep this stuff. No, we're selling this. You don't play with these toys. It was that whole conversation. And I don't know why that's the thing, but I do think about it. Like, when you're reminiscing or talking to friends, you and I talk about stuff back in the day and in the 80s and 90s. And that's always the thing that I think about. Skeletor's castle and how I didn't want to sell it.
Currently watching 10 of them on eBay.
Yes, dude, I do. I want to see what they're going for. I don't know why I'm obsessed with the castle. So I had the whole situation. Anyway, had it all. I still have my G.I. Joes and the case.
Yes.
Yeah, so I kept some of that stuff.
So it didn't get handed down to your brother, all that stuff?
No, we were close enough in age. Yeah. My brother and I, like the carrying case for the G.I. Joes, mine was all very organized, and each figure and it's whatever. Like my brother's, you open it, like their legs had been torn off. He had been trying to like switch the bodies.
Melted them.
It's just like, yes, it's just like, okay, this is a clear example of how we are as people, God. But I was really lucky in my childhood. My parents weren't rich, but they did okay. And my dad's like the hardest worker of all time. So I was thankful for anything I ever got. I saw my friends get some nicer things and a more expensive bike or a better car when they turned 16. But my parents always found a way, and I always felt very thankful for them figuring it out. And, yeah. I mean, I wanted a stereo. I got a stereo. Yeah. When I was little, I wanted the Power Pad for Nintendo. Got the Power Pad. I got Duck Hunt with the gun.
Got the Tomahawk.
That was good. That's all. I got the Tomahawk
for protection.
I didn't really want expensive things. I was happy to have what I had. And I guess when your child is happy about a Tomahawk, then you probably consider yourself lucky as a parent. It's like somebody else wants some sort of expensive huffy bicycle, and this kid wants a Tomahawk made by Native Americans. That's really what you want? Yeah. Okay.
So good. There's got to be a family picture there. Just you in your underpants holding a Tomahawk.
I still have the Tomahawk.
Oh my God.
I have it. Like it's stored away with like some trophies from when I was a kid. I have it.
Oh, so good.
Every once in a while I get it out and just like, oh my God.
FaceTime.
Can't believe I had this when I was 10.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for that, man. That was great.
Yeah, of course.
I enjoyed that. That was good.
It was fun.
I appreciate you sharing all those stories.
Yeah, that was fun.
All righty. You take
Thanks,
care,
Rob.
mate. All righty. See you later.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Really had a lot of fun talking with Ryan, and I hope it came across that way too. Please, if you can, check out the new album from Ryan Hamilton and the Harlequin Ghost, which is titled Nowhere to Go But Everywhere, and it's released worldwide on the 18th of September. If you want to pre-order your copy, then the best places would be HMV or Rough Trade here in the UK, or if you're elsewhere, please find it on all the usual places like Amazon, Bandcamp, or through the record label Wicked Cool. Of course, if you want to pre-save on Spotify, that still rules, and also iTunes and all the other regular download platforms. Every little bit helps, it really does. Thanks as always for choosing to listen to the Straight to Video podcast. I really do have a blast doing these interviews, but getting them out there into the ears of all you guys is really the best part, and hearing that you're enjoying them is great. Please continue to like, follow, share, and review, and until the next one, I've been your host, Rob Lane. Stay safe, take care, and I'll speak to you soon.